Near the end of today's program, we will have a moderated Q&A session and invite our civic scholars from Madison to ask the first questions. Anyone in the room may also write a question on a note card. We understand that today's forum represents all sides are represented here today. For that reason, we are extending the time of the Q&A Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday Forum. My name is Juan Martinez, the president of City Club Board of Governors. Thank you all so much for joining us here today at EcoTrust Building in Northwest Portland, where thousands of people are joining us online, on the radio, and on TV. Live viewers are watching on KGW's website, Facebook feed, and news app. And our radio audience is listening via X-Ray FM stations, 107.1 FM and 91.1 FM as well. And TV viewers will be watching today's program on community media television. We are incredibly grateful for the support of all of our media partners in bringing City Club to a larger audience. In addition to the City Club's valued media partners, our sponsors, volunteers, and staff enable us to put Oregon's best civic programs. And a special thank you goes out to EcoTrust for working with us to bring Friday Forum to this space. EcoTrust is a nonprofit organization based right here in this building, working for an equitable, prosperous, and climate-smart future. EcoTrust believes in the power of convening people around great ideas. By hosting an event in this building, your dollars go to support their work to create environmental well-being, economic opportunity, and social equity in this place we call home. And a huge thank you to Tamale Boy for providing wonderful food today. Jaime and his team are so talented. Thank you so much. Our moderator today is Walter Robinson II, founder of WLR Consulting, LLC. And our panel includes Doug Kelsey, the COO of TriMet, Maria Pope, President and CEO of Portland General Electric, and Mayor Ted Wheeler. Help me welcome Walter to the stage. Thank you so much.
You weren't awake? Well, if you were asleep, you're awake now, huh? Okay. Hello? Testing one. Oh. Oh, oh, oh. I'm afraid to touch anything. Okay, we good? Are you sure? Okay. It's a great way to start. But good afternoon, everyone. My name is Walter Robinson II. And as mentioned earlier, I am the founder and president of WLR Consulting. And we have a vision of franchising the disenfranchised. But before we get started with our panel and we introduced our guests, we have a group of young students who are climate organizers at Roosevelt High School who are going to come up and talk about their climate demands. So if you can all please give a round of, whoa, 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 whoa. Let me get their names out there. If you could all please give a round of applause for Kaya, Danielle, Zim Zim, Dylan, Tay, Vanessa, and Akash.
Oh, man. Check, check. Are we okay? Everybody can hear me? All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaya. I'm a senior at Roosevelt High School. I understand that there was a land recognition already done, but we actually wanted to do our own student recognition that we did at the December 6th climate strike that we created. So if it's okay, I'm going to start with that. Thank you for gathering here today. We would like to acknowledge that we gathered together as Portland youth, for us, residing in traditional lands of the Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Tumwater, Watlala, and Cowlitz bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molala peoples, and many other indigenous nations of the Columbia River, whom have fought, buried, loved, learned, hunted, and built homes upon. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the people whose ancestral land we gather on. As indigenous frontline communities and allies committing to fight for climate justice and our protection for our sacred homelands, we come here committed to be better protectors of this land that we live on as well. So that is a part of our land recognition that we did for the December 6th climate strike. If you're not familiar with it, students from Roosevelt and many other schools combined together in our efforts to organize during the school day, outside of the school day, for many weeks, leading up to December 6th, Friday, climate strike, where hundreds of Portland youth gathered together. And we're going to talk about our demands that we gave to our mayor and our city commissioners, but we are still trying to hold them accountable for the work that we need them to do. So we're just gonna give our demands right now, but we still need.
Hello, my name is Daniela, and I'm from Roosevelt. I'm a senior. The first demand is international climate crisis. The city of Portland must declare our current situation an international climate crisis. By declaring this climate crisis, we are spreading the urgency as a major city in our country to push the realization that we have to do something together, and we have to do it now. Declaring what is happening as a climate crisis recognizes that this is not happening gradually over time. Our planet is drastically changing right now. We need this declaration in order to create urgency and inspire immediate action for cities across the nation.
My name is Zemzem, and I'm a junior at Roosevelt High School. City of Portland must create policies and laws that preserve and protect the lands our city is on. Pacific Climate Warriors demands also include ending all contributions to fossil fuels and fast transitions to renewable sources of energy, including solar, hydro, and wind. We must use our resources to support these communities and can start with policies and laws that will influence these actions.
My name is Tate Igosaf. I'm a junior at Roosevelt High School.
And my name is Vanessa, and I'm also a senior at Roosevelt High School. So our second demand is frontline communities first. So this means that frontline indigenous communities must be a part and center of every conversation and about climate justice in the city of Portland. Nothing about us without us. Our voices should not be heard but valued in this fight for climate justice.
You must recognize that there is no time left for many of the Pacific Island regions and indigenous homelands that have already been seeing the irreversible effects of climate change right now at faster rates than ever before. Climate change on many of our homelands are directly impacting us all, including your own indigenous youth communities of Portland. Understand that you have people from these areas in your cities, and that when one part of your community hurts, the pain impacts you as well.
Commit to making sure every single conversation about climate change is evolving and focusing on frontline communities in our city. We should be at the table all the time.
Demand 3, I'm Dylan from Roosevelt High School. I'm a senior. Allyship is a lifestyle. The indigenous students' recent efforts as youth organizers should be reminders to our city commissioners of actions of solidarity from allies of the communities most affected by climate change. We need you to understand that allyship is more than just saying you stand in solidarity. It is being a part of movements and helping to make them possible with resources that sometimes only you can provide. Allyship applies the skills you have to purposely create spaces for frontline communities to speak up. Don't take the mic, be the mic. Allyship is also about confronting and acknowledging your position in this climate crisis and using your platform to uplift these frontline communities. Be mindful of your place in power and how you can use it to influence the city of Portland to actively do something about climate change. Consider who is being directly affected in this crisis and how your decisions can benefit them. A demand that came up from the September 20th global climate strike that has stayed relevant to our communities is establishing a climate test. We need every decision made by the City of Portland and all their departments to take into account the health of our planet in their decisions. We need you to choose what will most benefit the planet before anything.
I just was trying to help. Excuse me. Oh, why that?
My name is Akash, and I'm a senior at Roosevelt High School. And our final and fourth demand is to tell y'all that this is only just the beginning. This climate strike is opening doors for more conversations about the climate crisis and how we can work together to figure out solutions as a community. We need our city to continue every day to embody all these values today in everyday lives, activity, and spread urgency of this climate crisis to others in the community in power. As youth, we will continue to organize, and I want y'all to hear that. We're gonna continue to organize. I want y'all to know that April 22nd, 2020, we're gonna be out there again, and we're gonna fight for our islands and our homes. I want y'all to remember that. Thank you very much.
Just want to say real quick, those demands are on the tables for you all. There's only a couple copies, but I also put them up here for the panelists. So if y'all need a physical copy of the demands, they're there for you. Please look over them and respect that.
And maybe the city club can get those posted on their website as well for everyone to see them. And maybe even the mayor as well. And TriMet and PG. But while we're here, I would like to introduce our amazing panelists for our conversation today. Our panelists include Doug Kelsey, CEO of TriMet, Maria Pope, President and CEO of Portland General Electric, and Mayor Ted Willer. If you all would like to come up to the stage and join us, we greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, good sir. Okay. I think we're all right.
Well, you've heard a list of demands. What's our plan? But as we do shift to a clean energy future, how is the city, TriMet, and PG changing to meet these needs? It's a free fall. Anyone?
All right.
Start at the city. Mayor Willer.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ted Wheeler. I'm the mayor of the city of Portland, and I thank you for including me here today, and I particularly want to thank our youth for being here. I appreciated the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you earlier today, and I appreciated both the questions and the sense of urgency that you bring to this issue and the passion, and frankly, the good ideas. I guess my first message would be this. Nobody's going to solve this crisis alone. I think it's important that the City Club included the head of our transit agency, the head of one of our largest utilities in the area, and the elected mayor. That's a good start, but as the youth indicated, this is going to be an all-hands-on-deck approach. I think one of the most important things that the youth have brought to this conversation, in addition to the specific demands, is the understanding that we're going to have to change attitudes and behavior. This isn't just about policy. This isn't just about who's going to pass what programs, when and how. It's also about a fundamental cultural shift in understanding that we are in a fight for the planet, and therefore we are in a fight for humanity. It is nothing less significant than that. And so I appreciate the demands that have been brought forth. I actually didn't know that these were on the table, so I took my own notes. And I took a few liberties here. First of all, you demand that we understand that this is an international crisis, that it requires collaboration and partnership, and that we bring a sense of urgency to the table. I could not agree with you more. And I'm proud to stand not alone, but to stand with my fellow city commissioners who share your urgency. I stand with other elected leaders around the state and around the region. I stand with businesses who are ready to step up and help. I stand with utilities and others who are ready to step up and help. And I stand with other cities all around this planet who are doing their part as well. You had indicated that you want us to pass climate policy and clean energy policies that support our efforts around climate change, with frontline communities coming first. I'm proud to say that we are doing that. And we're not doing it because we're so smart down at City Hall. We're doing it because the community has demanded it. And a couple of great examples there, the Portland Clean Energy Fund, which is the first of its kind anywhere in the United States, which provides a stable and ongoing source of funding for frontline communities and historically underserved communities to be the first to benefit from the opportunities that will be created around our climate action planning. So that means there will be funds in place to help communities of color, low-income communities, and youth gain access to resources around renewable energy, around energy improvements, around different kinds of energy, community solar, making sure that in multi-unit housing, we actually have energy efficiency programs in place, making sure that in rental units we have access to EV infrastructure so that lower income people can participate in some of the opportunities around EV vehicles and bicycles and other kinds of things. And there's a long list of things that we're working on there. The ally piece was particularly important. We are going to have to work together. This is almost like one of those escape room exercises. Everybody brings a little bit of a piece of the knowledge to escape from the room. The room that we're trying to escape from is a global climate catastrophe. And so I will bring my part, the utilities will bring their part, the transportation folks will bring theirs, the climate justice advocates and the environmental advocates will bring theirs, the youth will bring theirs, and together we are going to figure out how to solve this problem. And I feel that a lot of the policies that we've already engaged in, whether it's our 100% renewable energy commitment, whether it's the unique commitment that we made, unique amongst a handful of cities, to make sure that that 100% renewable commitment includes the frontline communities first and foremost, whether it is the clean air diesel legislation that we passed recently, whether it was the single-use plastics ordinance that we passed recently, whether it's the efforts we're undertaking next week to bring back an ordinance which I believe will pass unanimously that will limit the expansion of fossil fuel infrastructures in the city of Portland, and the work that we're doing to limit oil trains coming through our community. And again, this isn't me, this is you, this is the community's will. This is what I'm hearing from my constituents, are high priorities, high value opportunities to help address the climate, and you young people are the ones who keep putting the pressure on. And I cannot applaud you enough. The climate test, I'm actually really excited about this one. I don't have all the answers yet. My Planning and Sustainability Bureau doesn't have all the answers yet. But as a first step along the climate test, what we've done is in the next budget that we're already in the process of putting together, I have directed all city bureaus to evaluate every one of their budgets through a climate lens. Tell us what the impact is going to be on carbon emissions. Tell us how a program, if it's a new program, will help us meet our climate action goals, which are very specific. And we will be funding a process whereby we can look at a broader climate lens through which all major policy decisions are driven, particularly those that impact the climate directly, like fleet purchases and that sort of thing, but also land use planning and other types of decisions that we make at City Hall. Put it all through a climate test. And then spread urgently. The youth will continue to organize. I hope so, because you are changing the minds and attitudes in not only this community, but you're seeing this as a global movement. You are part of something that is absolutely shifting our society and shifting our culture, and I'm grateful to you for that leadership.
Maria. Oh.
Thank you. I'm Maria Pope, President and CEO of Portland General Electric. It's a privilege to be here with you today, and particularly to be here with Doug Kelsey and Mayor Wheeler. I hope we also appreciate the leadership that the mayor has shown. We were recently recognized by Bloomberg as one of the top 25 climate change cities in the world. I think so often we don't realize how much we have already done because there is such a sense of urgency that we share with all of you around the climate. So for example, Portland General Electric customers contribute to the largest renewable program in the country. Over 25% of our customers buy 100% green energy. You combine that with the initiatives that the City of Portland with TriMet are doing, and those numbers will get even higher. In terms of our generation mix, today we're 40% carbon-free. We will be, at the end of 2020, 50% carbon-free as we bring online the first of its scale solar, wind, and battery storage facility made right here in Oregon. We will also, about 90% of Portland General Electric's generation mix comes right here from the state of Oregon in the Pacific Northwest. As we continue to expand through our integrated resource plans, we will be adding additional renewables as well as reliability and capacity also from non-carbon emitting resources. All of this transition is hard, and it's partnerships with leaders like Mayor Wheeler, with Doug Kelsey at TriMet, where we are also able to take electricity, which is the cleanest form of energy, and help other industries, particularly the transportation sector, which we now know is the largest emitting sector in our region. And we've had a terrific relationship with TriMet, not only in supplying green energy, but in providing valuable infrastructure and reliability. Because one of the number one concerns that TriMet and Doug has is making sure that his buses are available for our entire 500 and some odd mile area as we look at really transforming the transportation sector. We have terrific relationships with Daimler Trucks as they have their electric truck manufacturing on Swan Island, and have worked very closely with a variety of communities to enhance public charging. In particular, we just opened up the Eastport Plaza Electric Avenue just a couple of weeks ago. There is much to do, and we look forward to the partnerships. One of the things we also bring to the region as a regulated integrated utility is we bring the partnership of other like-minded companies across the West, bringing low-cost excess solar energy out of the desert Southwest, excess hydro energy out of British Columbia and other parts of Canada into our region, maybe exporting wind when we have excess energy generation, and really maximizing renewable generation, not just for ourselves, but across the entire West, and enhancing reliability, as well as keeping costs affordable so that everyone comes along on a clean energy journey as we move forward.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I'm really honored to be part of this panel as well. And when I look at the three of us did a press conference and also with Andrea Durbin at the City of Portland this morning on some of this exact topic. So the timeliness is excellent. You know, when I look at where we are, you know, sometimes with gray hair you get to go back in time a little bit, sometimes too far. This reminds me a lot of the recycling conversation many years ago, and in fact it was the youth who helped us, said, why did you change the oil and just dump it in the sewer? Why did you do X? Why did you do Y? It was many of the youth, the power of youth, that helped us all get to that recycling mindset. And I don't think we ever could go back. We need to do the same journey, but a lot faster now. A lot of us in this room who are older created this problem. And we have to bring leadership to actually get out of it. We've all participated, whether we thought about consciously or unconsciously. We live in a different time, and part of this time is we have to be passionate about this. I love your passion. Passion and courage and purpose moves things. So, and I, like Mayor Wheeler and Maria Pope, I sit here with these partners because it is going to take this and others. This is not just the City of Portland issue. This is a regional issue. This is a global issue. And I feel very honored to have been invited by the mayor to Copenhagen. And it was very helpful for me on a personal, deeper basis. I think everyone in this room and beyond this room cares about what we do. But for me, it was a learning going, it's not enough. So I've been processing and trying to learn more in this space. And it's a serious time. And we have serious activity to undertake here. So with our partnership, and I do want to give credit to the mayor for helping be a thought leader in this space, to help being a collector of ideas and thoughts, because not one person is going to be able to do this. It is going to take the village, if you will. And not only at the city level, personally, as part of TriMet's responsibility is regional in nature. And also part of it is also thanking Governor Kate Brown for her thinking on and leadership, not only in the state of Oregon, but beyond the state as well. The molecules don't have borders. No matter where we are, we have to try and seize those responsibilities for what we own today and what we're going to shape beyond the borders that are our own responsibility. There are a number of things that TriMet has been doing as part of this. And to Maria Pope and PGE as a partner, they've actually been changing and investing in the grid and trying to keep the rates as low as they can for years. They deserve a lot of credit. They've been building this infrastructure. It's not a scratch and win. We just do it tomorrow. It takes a lot of investment and a lot of time and thinking. So this has been going on, and I really applaud her and her team for the quiet thinking that's been going on in the background that we, in the case of TriMet, myself as a citizen, are going to need to be able to take advantage of. They will be our mobility oxygen of the future. TriMet is getting out of diesel. We have, I feel like I'm selling the flow beam up here to say, but wait, there's more. We are getting out of diesel. So the question is, how are we getting out of diesel and what does that look like? So starting next year, in February, we are going to be going totally to renewable diesel. So we are in transition. We have a huge infrastructure, about $6 billion in assets we've got to convert over. Sometimes the simplest thing is actually the bus. It's all the other infrastructure. Where do you charge it? Where do you put it? How do you train people? All those things. And heaven forbid, we're actually relying on our suppliers of the buses to actually produce a product that works. I've got news for you, folks. We're testing 5 buses right now, thanks to our partnership with Maria and team. 5 100% wind-driven buses. Right now. But that, again, that's just the start. Wait, there's more. Right? So we will have, by 2030, 340 electric buses on the road. By 2025, we will not be ordering one more diesel bus. We're done. One of the learnings for me was kind of looking at a photograph, and we always learn from other people. So when we were in Copenhagen, I saw this little Google mapping tracking thing with a little snorkel sticking out of it. And it was tracking the CO2 as it go around and updated the maps. TriMet is going to invest in CO2 carbon sensors. We're going to start putting them on our buses, and we're going to start tracking the microclimates of CO2 and other sensory pollutants in the region, and we're going to report on the same to everybody.
Okay. Well,
So,
but wait, there's more.
okay.
There's
only so much time, though.
Okay,
Gonna
well, we
give
go
you
slow as
give you
want.
15 more
I'm
seconds.
also announcing today that we will be converting our already electric fleet, the MAX fleet, to 100% wind energy, the first in the United States. And with the renewable diesel, we are putting millions at this. We're also doing a first ever carbon audit of our own organization. And from that, by the way, that includes also a waste stream audit. Usually you do them separately, one after the other. We're doing them both together. by mid next year, and we will develop and get to a net zero long-term carbon strategy for TriMet and for this region. I've got more, but I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot of Q&A questions that'll get at some of those details as well. But for our radio audience, this is the City Club of Portland's Friday Forum, coming to you from the Equal Trust Building in Northwest Portland. I am Walter Robinson II, and with us today are Doug Kelsey, CEO of TriMet, Maria Pope, President and CEO of PGE, and Mayor of Portland, Ted Wheeler, discussing how Portland is stacking up in the fight against climate change. Now, this one specifically for you, Mr. Kelsey. So we appreciate that the transit has made a commitment to electrify its fleet by 2040. However, we know that electrification comes at a cost. And at the same time, we know that there are many areas of the city where our most vulnerable populations have been displaced that are still transit deserts. So how is TriMet evaluating the impact of the trade-offs between more service expansion and frequency with fleet electrification?
Great question. The first thing is we chose different words but end up in the same places the mayor has outlined. We will also be introducing a carbon lens into the way we evaluate all of our purchases, dealing with our suppliers. So if there's consultants in the audience and other suppliers, we provide a lot of business to people. Get ready, because we're going to be overlaying to our planning practices, to our procurement practices, the carbon lens. And that will apply to all elements of it. As an example, in East Portland, not related to the C40 conference, we did this about a year and a half ago, we had too many old buses working out of our Powell garage on the east side. So we've rebalanced the fleet for the fleet that we have today while we're in this very significant transition to ensure there is equity until we solve this problem further. We also, so part of the carbon lens will help us in the evaluation of balancing amenities and services on a regular basis. So the other part I want to talk about is also the youth pass. So in terms of the youth pass, so TriMet and the City of Portland are going to be supporting together to the degree as at all possible to get this in the T2020 ballot measure so they can end up having a city and regional youth pass program. So, and so we have lots of work to do. We have to do that together, but that's another example of helping people in need. And also not to forget, TriMet we have one of the most aggressive low-income fare programs in the United States. 76% of our youth pass is already discounted. And so we are helping those in need, but we're happy to really look and take on the broader piece of supporting the youth in this transition part of the program around driving ridership and reducing the greenhouse gas footprint.
Thank you. Well, you brought up Youth Pass, and it'll behoove me not to mention the folks who have been working very hard on the legislation and also the policies that have been passed over the 20 years. So when we think about YEJA and OPAL, who are environmental justice organizations who have been working very hard on this and have been making a lot of progress, how does TriMet work together with the city, the region, and PGE to help a regional youth pass manifest into something we can see and get us closer and closer to hopefully potentially a fareless transit option?
So firstly, let's talk about a few things. I'm personally not there at a fareless option. There's about $120 million we receive in revenue from those who pay on the system. Many of us in this room who can afford it. And so this is part of a community dialogue, not just in Portland, but in other cities as well. So if someone gave me $120 million from another source, I go, what could I do with that $120 million? What could we all do with that? Well, very clear research and feedback we get from community outreach. Now we receive spectrums of all types. People want actually expanded service. They want more amenities. That's what they've are asking for. On the list is a conversation around discounting and passes, but it is not anywhere close to the top of the list based on the broader feedback that we are receiving at this point in time. So if someone gave me $120 million, I go, what could we do with that $120 million? So I think it has to be kept in context with all the other things we do, including one of the reasons why we wanted to have this conversation today is about the carbon footprint. I made a commitment, and thanks to the great leadership and support of our board of directors, I said we will be out of diesel buses by 2040 or before. The 2040 is too late. We need to accelerate this up. But part of being an open business partner is having a conversation. I have a gap financially just on getting out of diesel, even though I've made that commitment, from $500 to $600 million. So I'm already in the hole. So I've got to figure out, that's my job that I've got to figure out, but I'm going to need the community and others to help us get those revenues. So one of the best things of highest impact we can do together, we need to build the Southwest Corridor. That gets 43,000 people out of their car right away. So there's a whole list of things that this has to be kept in context with, in addition, that are real drivers of shaping the carbon footprint. I want to fund getting out of diesel. For me, that's the denominator. The numerator are all these other really important topics as well that should be part of the discussion.
Well, you did mention working together, and you have two other people sitting on this couch that also talked about working together and how that could look. So same question posed to the two of you. How could you work together to actually create something regionally that we just discussed around the Youth Pass, and also working with the youth and other organizations who have been working on the ground and on the front lines?
So Director Kelsey's comments notwithstanding, he runs TriMet, he is the expert, but I will give you my value statement. It is a value statement, and I realize a value is very different than coming up with the funding or the resources. I personally believe that transit should be free in our community. And the reason I believe that it should be free in the community is we need to encourage people not to drive single occupancy vehicles. Today, there are reasons why people do need to drive single occupancy vehicles. So it's up to us who are policy leaders to create the systems and the incentives for people to be able to get out of their cars and enjoy a transit system. Now, this is not all on Doug Kelsey's shoulders or the board of directors of TriMet's shoulders to do it today. It is everybody's responsibility to think about how we can help, how we can partner, how we can pass whatever state legislation is required or regional legislation is required, and how we find the sources of funding. I believe you could do this on an incremental basis. Again, I'm not the expert, but I do believe we could start with youth. We could start with lower income people who need transit in order to be able to get to their place of employment. And I believe we could include people with disabilities. We could include older adults. There's ways that we could do something less than a full-blown free transit system starting right now. The concern that I have today is that it's not just what we are doing, it is how we are doing it. And what we've heard from the youth, what we've heard from frontline communities, is that they have borne the disproportionate burden of climate change. And therefore, in everything we do, whether it's our 100% renewable energy pledge, whether it's working hard to make sure the Portland Clean Energy Fund is a success in our community, whether it's engaging communities of color, low-income people, and youth in our emergency climate declaration, at every step, we need to think about how do we benefit those communities that are the most impacted and too frequently left out of the conversation about how to solve the solution. And for me, transit, at least on a values basis, is an important missing link. It's about moving towards renewable energy sources. It's about energy efficiency. It's about zoning in the built environment. But it's, transportation and single occupancy vehicles continue to be the major contributor to carbon emissions, and therefore that should be something we stick a pin in early as a priority. But Doug, I'm going to tell you this. I'm not going to set you up and say this is on you or it's on TriMet. It's not. It's on all of us, and I will continue to work with you and others in the TriMet board and figure out what we can do as quickly as possible to get to what I think should be the ultimate vision, which is a free and accessible transit system.
Is this my last one? Okay. Well, Ms. Pope, since you haven't really said much since the beginning, I have a question specifically for you. Okay, so we recognize that nothing happens in a bubble. And moving towards 100% renewable energy, how are you managing your need to balance the needs of your stakeholders with the city's commitment to go 100% renewable? And how are you working with state legislators and the Public Utilities Commission to help advance the city's goals?
So first of all, there isn't a conflict between all of those goals. Really, the question is, how do we move forward to meet the city's goals, to work with the Public Utility Commission, to work with state legislators, which we did really, really well with the House Bill 2020 cap and trade work. We were able to work with like-minded businesses and others for a solution that really worked across the state, and we'll continue to do so. I think we've heard from Doug and from others about how important this change is, and to be able to move forward where we keep the electricity system, the oxygen for our transportation system, reliable and affordable is the way we do so inclusively. And move with as quickly as we can from where we are today to in just a couple of years from now, we will be 2/3 renewable energy combined with our customers' programs. And that really is something that's quite remarkable if you think about where we are as a country. We will also be pushed to move farther and collaborating with technology partners, some of which are large global companies, some of which are startups, and moving us faster as we see technology costs come down, renewable costs come down, because that's the way that we will reduce the costs of ridership for our partners like TriMet or for the city in terms of their services to us as community members.
Thank you so much. Really greatly appreciate you all and sharing that amazing information. For our radio audience, this is the City Club of Portland's Friday Forum coming to you from the EcoTrust building in Northwest Portland. I'm Walter Robinson II, and with us today are Doug Kelsey, COO of TriMet, Maria Pope, President and CEO of PGE, and Mayor Ted Wheeler, discussing how Portland is stacking up in the fight against climate change. We'd like to now welcome our civics scholars from Marshall High School to ask the first. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hey, there's a script here, and I apologize, Madison. So let me restate that. We would now like to invite up our civics scholars from Madison High School to ask the first question as we move into Q&A. Afterwards, the floor will be open to further questions from everyone else. Everyone else watching or listening today is welcome to ask a question. If you've written a question on an index card, hold it high up for the City Club staff to collect. You may also submit questions via Twitter using the hashtag FridayForum. To those who would like to ask a question at the mic, please identify yourself and ask one question in 30 seconds or less. Ready, set, go. Who's going to be the civic scholar asking the first question? I have a question. Can I ask one more question? Okay, never mind. Just trying to get one more question in. All right, I think we're ready. So if you could say your name, your grade, and school. I believe it's Madison High School.
Hello. Okay, so my name is Yannette Garcia, and I'm a sophomore at Madison High School.
I'm Lilith Noiser-Kartmalzoff, and I'm also a sophomore at Madison High School.
So as a table for Madison High School, we wrote a handful of questions, but we're only going to ask one or two. So our question was, what are you doing to change your business practice to fight against climate change?
Would you like to take that one?
I'll start with this one. So we're really re-looking at how we do our work, and we're trying to figure out how we are solutions forward-thinking focused versus saying why not, leaning into technological solutions, being inclusive, working as one PGE, working in partnership with others like TriMet, the City of Portland, but also technology companies, other utilities. This transformation is hard, and it's really important that we are inclusive of everyone and continue to provide the safe, reliable, and affordable service that we have been known for over 100 years. Electrical service is important not only for businesses and for residences, but it's also important for the fabric of our communities, our hospitals, our police, fire. And so it's very important we work together to make sure that we're able to maintain the same services as we transform to ever-increasing amounts of renewable wind, solar, and other forms of renewable energy.
I'll take a swing at that. I don't necessarily think of the City of Portland as having a, quote, business model necessarily, but there are aspects that's similar. The first is leading by example, and much of the work that we've done in the last year has been around leading by example. Just last week, for example, my good friend and colleague Nick Fish brought forward an ordinance to get rid of gas-powered leaf blowers. Well, you know, I honestly hadn't thought about it, but it turns out they are not only one of the most annoying inventions known to mankind, they also spew a lot of carbon out into the community. And Commissioner Fish rightly believes that we cannot tell other people what to do if we have not led by example. So, and the same holds true with our electric vehicle policy and so many of the other things we're doing, our climate lens. The second area is to incentivize. Our business model focuses heavily on incentivization, encouraging people to change their attitudes or their behavior. I want to call out the good work that my colleague, Commissioner Chloe Daly, is doing as Transportation Commissioner. I think she's doing a great job. She's working really closely with Doug and TriMet. We have the Central City in Motion plan. We also have the new Rose lanes. These are going to encourage more people to use transit, as well as encouraging people to walk and bike as we create more infrastructure to make it safely. The third prong of our business model is regulation. The best example recently that I can think of off the top of my head is the Clean Air Construction Standard. It's not optional. We are telling people if you want to do work with the city, capital construction work, then you will have equipment that does not emit copious amounts of carbon into the air. We have options, and we are choosing clean. And then the last area is partnership. We're partnering with TriMet and others on the Youth Pass. We have a great partnership with PGE that I'm very proud of, and Maria's worked so hard on around electric vehicle infrastructure. It's one thing to say we want to go to 100% electric vehicles, but it means nothing if there's no infrastructure to actually be able to reasonably charge it. So we're working with PGE not only to charge our own fleet, but also hopefully there are other corporate fleets and institutional fleets in the area. We hope we can include them, and we hope we can include the community. So I would say it is those things: leading by example, incentivization, regulation where necessary, and partnership. And across the board, this climate crisis is requiring us to redouble our efforts on all four of those things.
Next question.
What is your number one concern that you want to deal with this upcoming year on climate crisis?
You can go ahead and take that one, General Manager. So what is your number one concern addressing the climate crisis for next year? And we're just going to have you answer that one, and we're going to go to the next question, okay?
Gosh, it's always hard to come with one, right? When this is a crisis that is so multidimensional. If I have to pick one, is the speed that we can implement the list I literally just went through earlier on, the speed that we can get there. I've got to get to 100% wind power on max. I've got to get to renewable diesel, get out of, as we transition out. We're piloting right now. I've got a pilot for the first in North America's fully recycled articulated bus. That is a diesel bus that we're actually piloting right now. We're going to bring it back here in about 6 months, and it's going to go from an old beat up diesel bus, articulated, those little bendy things, and to a fully electrified one. And so we need to do more with less capital, so we can in fact take that savings, in this case around $1.7 million to buy a big bus, versus if I can do it for 1.2 million, I can take that $500,000 savings and re-put it into acceleration up of this whole model of solving the problem. So the speed of implementation, I think, is what, it's not a nightmare, it's not a dream, but I call them a wake-mare. And it said, that keeps me awake at night, how fast we can get there.
Thank you, scholars, for your questions. Again, Madison High School.
Can I actually have some of my Roosevelt crew come up here with me real quick, so I don't do this alone?
Throw your question out there.
I'll try to make it real fast.
30 seconds or less.
Cool.
Got
So one of our statements that we just wanted to say first was that we are the main organizer of the December 6th climate strike, and under our demands, we wanted to recognize that we actually weren't invited here in the first place. We did have to come out, find many obstacles to go through in order to get here and not have to pay for being here. So we do want to make sure that just next time and continuing on, if we are going to follow these demands, that we do go by our demands and that we are inviting the frontline communities to our conversations. Just wanted to say that first. And that for the people who are up there, we do respect that there is so much that you are saying that you are going to do and you are doing already, but the point of why we are here is to hold you accountable, not to make everybody feel defensive or anything like that. So we just want to make sure that we're clear. We're here to help, not to make it sound like you're doing anything bad, and that we're going to continue to do more things from here, because what we're doing right now is not enough for our islands. 2040, 2050, those are great numbers, but the thing is that these islands are going underwater right now. Our homelands are going under right now, and our allies do need to understand that this is why it's urgent for us. That was just my statement, is that we are trying to help each other. We are not trying to go against each other. This is not a us versus you. We are trying to do this together. My question was also, if we are doing so many things together, then how are you going to inspire other cities to do the same thing? Because I do hear you saying that Portland is doing so many amazing things, and that's great. And on top of the things that we have to change, how can you make other cities spread around the awareness, if that makes sense? Yeah.
So PG, we know you're doing amazing things, but I'm going to pass this along to our mayor.
Yeah, good question. Here's where we are with the cities. Number one, because of a lot of great work that past mayors and past city councils and past bureau leaders have done, Portland for a long time has been seen as a global climate leader. We were the first city in the United States to have a carbon reduction plan back in 1993, and it's been built on every year since then. We do join up with other cities. In fact, just recently at the C40 Mayor's Climate Conference, the tagline for the whole thing was cities are leading, but nobody's doing enough. And so the whole point of the conference was for all of us to commit to achieving energy efficiency, to putting front driver's seat, to making sure we shift from fossil fuels over to renewables, to make sure that the built environment and our transit systems are respectful of the urgency with which we want to address the climate crisis, and to do it sooner than 2050. So we all thought 2050 was great for making that switch to 100% renewable energy. Then the IPCC came out and completely blew that up. So now we have to work much, much more quickly. Cities are collaborating, we're communicating, we're holding conferences together. As Maria mentioned, we're now part of the Bloomberg Climate Challenge, one of a handful of cities globally that is committed to the accelerated goals. And what I think we can do best is serve as an example. We can be one of a handful of cities that show other cities all around the country and the world that we can have hope about achieving our climate action goals, and that we can community-wide create the strategies to get it done. And I actually feel very good about the list of things that we've done recently, but I'm going to agree with something you said up front. It's not enough. It's not enough. And the ideas aren't going to come out of my head. They're not going to come out of the city council's head. They're not even going to come out of our community partners. It's going to have to be an all-hands-on-deck approach, and every single idea, we're getting new ideas coming to us at City Hall. Keep them coming, keep holding us accountable. That accountability that you're talking about is critically important for moving at the speed that we need to move. Because as I said up front, it's a cultural shift. It's an attitudinal and a behavioral shift. And without the community constantly saying, we need this, it's not gonna happen as quickly as it needs to happen. So I thank you.
Before we take the next question from the mic, I have a question from a cue card that I'm going to ask here, okay? And this one is for you, Mrs. Pope. So solar power tax credits require ongoing renewal net metering, which requires using certified installer, which increases costs. Can government address this?
So let me talk a little bit about the sort of utility system and bidirectional flows of electricity. First of all, electricity is a dangerous product. And we have seen in other states really bad consequences of installations of solar, and in particular sometimes batteries, that set back a movement on renewable energy when not done prudently. And so being able to integrate all of the generation, both at the central station side, but increasingly in the distribution system, takes prudency and care so that we're able to do it safely and reliably. It is essential that we do this because it will mean that we will build less generation, and we will be able to balance the sun's generation, the wind generation, with battery storage in the distribution or otherwise, and be able to really integrate in a holistic way without raising costs to a prohibitive level. So it's important that we do things prudently. Which installers or whatnot, I can't comment on that. I will tell you that a lot of times people do things and then they call us because they haven't worked very well. And so I would suggest making sure you know, buyer beware and know what you're installing, because it will make a difference. It'll be in your home. It'll be a part of your energy system. And we want it to go well for you, so then also it comes back onto the grid and goes well for our entire communities. The grid is an integrated system, and it needs to work for everyone, safely, reliably, and as low cost as possible.
Thank you. To the mic.
My name is Chris Allman. I'm a retired physician. I work with a lot of environmental groups. Finance capitalism. I'd like to talk about what we do with retirement accounts. Green Mountain Power is utility that just recently divested their retirement accounts for fossil fuels. And Mayor Wheeler, you were treasurer, and under your tenure, you created a voluntary ESG, environmental social governance, investment for voluntarily. A year ago, Treasurer Reed expanded that. My question is, what are we going to do to divest from a lot of these dirty private equity groups, including Warburg Pincus, Global Partners, and Texas Pacific Group?
Oh boy, I thought my days on answering those questions were behind me. But it's a really important question. And there is nobody who feels as strongly as I do that everybody should have access to an affordable retirement plan. And I was very proud to work with Tobias and the legislature and the governor and everybody else to create Oregon Saves, which is the first state-sponsored retirement plan in the United States with a focus on lower income workers. Now you're talking about what's in the retirement plan, how do you make the ROI? And notwithstanding laws, fiduciary laws that require investment fiduciaries like the Oregon Investment Council to invest for the highest rate of return, and that is a law, and you can get sued personally if you do not adhere to it. We did find opportunities on the voluntary side to create the ESG, and also I made what I thought was a very cogent argument to get out of coal, and I did it based on fiduciary responsibility. I think the coal industry is dead. It is a dying beast. It's going to be gone. And therefore, I did not think it was a good long-term investment for our retirees in our pension system. But we also need to keep pushing Wall Street to create alternative investment tools. 6 years ago, I was actually shocked as state treasurer by how few large socially responsible, environmentally responsible funds there were. We invest, the state, at least back then, I don't know what it is today, but it was a $90 billion portfolio, and about 75 of it was in PERS, was the pension system, and the largest funds we could find would take 0.25%. They just weren't large enough to make a significant difference for the overall portfolio. That's changing, and it's changing because treasurers around the country, like Tobias and others, I would presume, are pushing Wall Street to create more investment vehicles. I think the best opportunity for pension funds going forward is to look at green bonding infrastructure and socially responsible bonding mechanisms that can provide a 3, 4, 5% reliable rate of return, and use that in exchange for a money market or a low-risk bond. And so if you can generate that same kind of rate of return in a socially responsible fund, then you've just made the fiscal argument that you're required to make as a fiduciary. That may sound like a boring answer to most people, but it's actually the cutting edge of investment policy, because we have to invest our values. And right now, fiduciary responsibility trips up a lot of big institutional and public funds from being able to invest their values.
I would also say that investment managers and others can do well by doing good. And you see across the country ESG funds outperforming other funds and pushing companies like ourselves to go further and faster. As a publicly traded company in the New York Stock Exchange, earlier this week I was visiting with investors in New York, and every single one of them asked me about what we're doing to reduce our carbon impact, what we're doing to make sure to integrate renewables, how we're handling governance and sustainability issues, and how we're being inclusive of every customer that we serve. So I think that things have changed very dramatically in the last couple of years, and ESG is very much on the minds of investors today.
Well, you had a last question you wanted to ask of our young people here today. I
So
wanted to allow you that space and time.
for the groups from Jefferson and Madison,
Roosevelt and Madison.
Roosevelt, excuse me. We're going to
It's
mix
okay.
up our
It's
Portland
okay.
schools. I apologize.
So many of you all.
One of the things that we're working on at Portland General is how to be more inclusive with energy usage. Because if we're going to be successful, we're going to be successful together. And we have some distributed energy projects that we're working on where you can literally change the usage of your electricity in your homes, elsewhere, by interacting with our mobile app and opting in. We have 3 pilot projects right now, not necessarily in the right districts for you all, but in a variety of districts, and I'd like you to help us engage, because as Doug said, it's the youth that will help us change, and we need to have very high degrees of participation to make this work and to be able to essentially have a virtual renewable power plant within our own communities. Yeah. And so my ask of all of you is to help us engage with your peers as well as with parents, business owners, and others to make these projects successful.
Yeah. And I just want to remind everyone on the panel that engagement works both ways. So the young people did tell you that nothing about us without us. So they need to be involved in not only crafting these plans and measures and things that will dictate their future, but also they can also help with the engagement pieces as well, beyond just testing apps and being a part of surveys and things like that. So I just want to put that out there for all of our youth who put their list of demands out there. And continue to do so, and know that we're here on your side as well to work with you to help us all get to a better future. Thank you for your time today, and Juan is going to finish us up.
So our time is up for today. We encourage everyone here to continue this conversation in your communities and online. And please follow City Club at PDX City Club on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you, Mayor Ted Wheeler, Maria, Doug, and Walter, for being here with us today. We are adjourned. Have a great afternoon, everyone.